So this oven right here is the JA12SL, and I'm just going to go over a little bit of like the basic features, and then we'll get into the control a little bit. So first of all, you have it opens with one door, and then your other door as well, magnetic latches, and then you actually have racks in here. So the reason for this rack, in this rack right here, is that if you have a sheet pan, you can easily access the sheet pan without having to physically pull out the rack and look at your product. I will now show you a demonstration of how that works and throwing product in and out of the unit. The fan in the back here is actually a dual reversing fan. So the fan is going to go in one direction, stop, and then go in the other direction to really promote even baking within inside of the unit. The air circulates around the sides of the unit and then makes its way back into the center of the fan. Then it's also the same way that the steam is distributed into the unit as well. There is a water line directly connected to the unit, and it is distributed into the fan where there are holes inside of the fan. And then as long as the oven is at a great enough temperature, higher than 250 degrees, then a powerful burst of steam will be distributed out from the fan into the rest of the cavity across all of the product. And so this is the side load version of the JA12SL. There's also an end load version as well, where you put the pans in the other direction. So I have another video that is a complete tutorial on how to go through the entirety of the control. So I'm just going to go over the general standards, features, and benefits. So there's a temperature control right here, and that's going to go up to 500 degrees max. We also have our shot steam right here. So this is in manual mode, so everything you do if you press it, it is not incorporated into a program whatsoever. It's if you're just using the oven in manual mode exclusively. So right here is your shot steam button. So you're going to use this for things like artisan bread. It's going to insert one powerful burst of steam injection into the cavity, and then it's going to lay on top of the bread, which is going to help promote greater loaf expansion because the crust will not have set in the bread and it'll give it more room to grow. It'll also gelatinize the starches on the top of the bread, and then later on help caramelize the sugars on the bread as well to help get you that crispy crust that you're looking for on artisan breads. Now the pulse steam function here is different. It is a small amount of steam being distributed into the cavity every 15, 20, or 30 seconds. So why you would use that is if you're, say, making proteins or vegetables, it's going to help reduce product loss because it's injecting the moisture back into the product that you're losing throughout the baking or cooking process. I've also had people use it for bagels. As a function. Instead of having to boil the bagels, they use the pulse steam function to kind of emulate that concept, as well as with cheesecakes, instead of using a water bath, just to kind of help distribute the heat evenly throughout the cavity with that water, help prevent overbaking of the cheesecakes and the cracking of the cheesecakes. Right here is your different fan speeds. So it's going to give you the option of a low fan speed or high fan speed, and I would want to use low fan speed on very delicate products, things like muffins, cookies, anything that I'm worried is going to blow over or I don't want to overbake on the outside before it cooks on the inside. Maybe macaroons, meringues, things like that. Now, and then I have my standard fan, which is for where I want to do faster baking, which is generally for any type of bread product, rolls, artisan bread, anything, sandwich bread, anything along that line. I'll use the standard fan for. It also gives the option in here as well for the fan rotations. So when I talked about the fan going in one direction, stopping, and going in the other direction, there are 3 different fan rotations here. which will allow you to adjust for the product that you're using. So if I have a product that bakes for like 30 minutes, I might want to use the standard fan rotation because it goes in one direction for 2.5 minutes, stops for 25 seconds, and goes in the other direction for 2.5 minutes. So it's doing a full rotation of the fan in about 5 minutes. Whereas if I have a product that's baking shorter, the lower fan rotations alternate in about 1 minute intervals. So it would alternate the fan more often throughout the baking process if I use a lower fan rotation. And my time feature here as well, my add a minute function. I go over all this in the more in-depth video. And then my start stop, which I'm using to start and stop my recipes, as well as start and stop my timers. So in the recipes, this is where you're actually going to program the recipes themselves. But to access them, once you turn the unit on, to access recipes, you just simply press the down button, and then it'll have all the recipes that you've created, up to 99 recipes. And what this is great for is if you have a staff that is not well trained, is not a baker, and they're not necessarily a cook, they don't know that much, they can just come over here and for easy access, press a recipe, it'll load, press start, and then walk away. And within each 99 recipe, of the 99 recipes, there are 8 baking stages. So what I would use that for is, say I'm baking a muffin, and I want to start it off at 425 degrees because that's really going to give me bigger crown development and a taller muffin. But then I only want to do that for a couple minutes because if I bake a muffin completely at 425 degrees, the outside will be done before the inside is done. So then I'll lower it down to 350 to continue the bake. So that's a reason why I would need more than one stage of baking. And if I program that all into a recipe, then no one has to manually come back and do that. So it's actually saving labor because someone can physically continue keep completing their task while the program is actually running and doing all the steps and inserting all of the steam and changing the fan speeds and changing the temperatures, so someone doesn't manually have to come back and do all of that work. This button right here is just for a light in the cavity. Just simply going to turn the light on and off in the oven cavity itself. This button is the auto cool down button, so it's going to rapidly drop the temperature of the cavity until it reaches 250 degrees. So if you need to really rush the temperature on the oven from 500, just say now where you're baking bread, to 300 where you're baking cookies, you press this button, it allows you to open the door with the fan still running. Normally when you open the door, the fan will stop, so this allows that fan to run to help expedite the cooling process, and it'll run at a high fan speed as well to really drop that temperature lower to get you where you need to go faster. One last thing to mention is the USB port right here. So if there is a chain restaurant or someone who is trying to replicate recipes in a new location, we have a USB port to be able to upload recipes in the field. So if someone is to change a recipe, then they can now load it onto USB, and then they can bring it to the new location, and then we can bring it to the new location, and then load the recipes onto there as well, just to create uniformity between different stores. So convection ovens in general are going to reduce your time from a deck oven temperature by 25%, and you're also going to have to reduce the temperature of whatever you're baking by another 25 degrees as well. So the reasons that a convection has an advantage over that deck is for that time that you're saving, so those labor savings, that time savings. Also, it's very multi-purpose because with a deck oven, you might have to have a 6-inch deck to bake your pizzas, an 8-inch deck to bake your breads, a 12-inch deck to bake your large loaf breads. With a convection oven, I don't need different size convection ovens to bake all sorts of products. I can bake my pizzas on one deck, I can bake muffins on the other. You can make all sorts of different products within the same convection oven, and I can just adjust shelves or remove shelves as needed if I have larger or taller products. So it's a little bit more versatile, especially for the space that it has. Here I have 6 pans right here. If I had a 6-pan convection oven, it would be about triple this size and height and possibly in width as well. So I'm saving on space and I'm just increasing my versatility while still producing a superior product, especially for things like artisan breads, generally known for deck ovens. Here, because we have our super powerful steam injection system, we're able to replicate very similar results to a deck oven with those kind of features that we have.